Welcome to the Market My STR show, the show made exclusively for short-term rental owners and co-hosts that actually works, so you can stop wasting time and money on short-term rental and co-hosting marketing strategies that don't work. Listen in for tips, tricks, and our book solid, move the needle, and core 4 marketing strategies. Here's your host, Scott Hill.
Hey, welcome to this episode of the MarketMySTR podcast. My name is Scott Hill. I'm the founder of MarketMySTR, but as many of you probably know by now, I am also a co-founder of Ultvare, which is a co-hosting company that is just getting started on our way to $10 million in booking revenue. And I'm here with my co-founder and partner, Jeremy Levine, who, even though I guess technically this is my podcast, Jeremy's going to take the lead on this episode. So we're going to turn over quickly to him and get started. We haven't found a title that I can actually communicate live here, but you'll see it in this episode and we'll go from there. So Jeremy, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate being here again. So last episode, we kind of did a high-level view of Ultvare. We talked about our whys for building the business, kind of gave why we're in certain the markets that we're going into. And we kind of touched on some of the path from when this whole thing started to where we are. But I thought, there might be value in kind of hitting a little bit deeper on each month and those things that we've been completing each month, which will lead us to where we are now, July of 2025. So going forward on these shows, what we can do is say, this is what we accomplished last week. What was the outcome? This is our plan for next week, and then the following show, how that kind of turned out. And then have maybe one topic, that we go a little bit deeper into. And there's some things in here that we'll go through that we've done over the last bunch of months that I think could become topics for shows to help people along their co-hosting journey. So I'll just jump in. I'll start real quick because there were some things that we hit on last show, but essentially you launched MarketMySTR in April of 2023.
Right.
Really familiar with the short-term rental space. Until that point, you met Bill on the sidelines of the soccer field, and then you started meeting short-term rental owners, so you got a taste of it.
Yeah.
You started learning about co-hosting, and then you attended Bill's SDR Wealth Conference in February of 2024, which really kickstarted it, right? Kickstarted it for you. So that's where you got a real taste for it. March of 2024, I joined Inner Circle, and then, your marketing side, you didn't really know what you were planning to do yet, but you already started thinking about what Ultvare might be.
Right.
You started dreaming.
Right.
Exactly. You came up with the name, July 2024. I don't think you even talked to anybody about this yet, but you went and purchased Ultvare.
Yeah.
So you had the vision and things were starting to move forward.
Yeah, let me explain why Ultvare. Lots of people be like, what is that? It's not a word, right? It's not a word. Right. I can't really have any words on domains anymore that are short because there are none available. Everything is taken. So I did what most people do. What I've always done with domains is I started at GoDaddy. I just started typing things in and started looking, taken. And so I started really brainstorming. I think I went to ChatGPT, but ultimately what I found was the word ultimate vacation rental, those 3 words. And so Ultvare just simply is the first 3 letters of ultimate, the first 2 letters of vacation, and the first 2 letters of rental. Ultvare, it was available. I felt like that was a bit serendipitous, so I'm like, get it. It's the first one I could find that was available. I went to Fiverr. I started working on a logo, as you know, Jeremy, because I was interested in 3 markets. And what I came up with, if you guys are watching the podcast and you ever go to ultvare.com, you'll see the logo is one side of it is a sun with what a sun looks like, and the other side is a snowflake, and the middle is a smile face. And the sun is what it is. It's the beach, it's all that. The snow is what it is. We want to be in Salt Lake City at some point. The middle part of the logo is a smile face, which represented Orlando at the time, which Jeremy's going to go into some detail what that looks like right now on our radar. And it also combined what that smiley face, I kind of accentuated that smile face into more of a U for Ultvare. So
right. And I think it works great, right? And, we'll mention it here in a little bit, but you kind of talked me through it on that initial conversation we had. And, I was on board.
I think that a really important point, Jeremy, is that's where you and I think that's where the spark of the relationship happened, because we instantly realized that I brought some complimentary things to the table and you brought some complimentary things to the table, because you would talk to me about your success in co-hosting and managing properties in the Poconos and all that, and you're probably going to get into that, so I'm not going to steal your thunder there. But I think that's where the initial spark of, man, we we might have a partnership here.
Yeah. No, we really, pick up each other's weaknesses,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an ultimate goal if you're going to partner with somebody is making sure, what you do best isn't what I do best. And that's, that was pretty smooth for us. So just continuing down the road here, August 2024, you joined Inner Circle, not as a member, but as a coach. So you've had a little bit of a different perspective of the Inner Circle than I have. And then September 2024, you started going through the directory. You mentioned this on the last episode. I think Dan put it together. There's a question there. Are you interested in partnering with somebody? You started making some calls, talking to people to see if they were interested. You and I had met via Zoom, right? We had weekly Inner Circle coaching calls, but we hadn't met in person yet. So it was in November of 2024 that we had our first meeting, and you shared your vision for Ultvare, which we talked about. I shared my experiences in short-term rental co-hosting, and basically we were off to the races, right? So do you want to kind of talk through your vision of Ultvare, kind of the two branches that we ultimately want to have?
Sure. I think the benefit of me not knowing anything about co-hosting was I was a good listener. And as you guys did your co-hosting calls, I listened. I didn't say a word. I was there as a coach for MarketMySTR. And if you guys, we have plenty of subscribers on those calls. So I was there to help as a coach, but I had nothing to say about co-hosting, so I could really be a good listener. And what I did do, the good decision I made was to show up at your guys' co-hosting pod and listen and start to understand, because I had gotten the bug. I was far enough along, like you said, with Ultvare, that I knew what I wanted to do, but I needed a partner. I needed somebody who knew what they were doing. And so I just was going to listen. And it was, at 56 years old now, the benefit of age, there are some benefits of age. Like I could sit back and like, okay, what have I learned? Like be a good listener, like listen. And that's where I started to hear you talk. And anyway, that all is good. So what I was looking for was a partner to help me with a strategy that I had come up with where I wanted to be in 30A as much as I possible. I love that place. We vacation there. It was selfish to an extent, but I'm going to quickly go through like literally what I did was I said, I want to build a co-hosting company, ideally there, but I'm not going to take it for granted that I got to do the research. And in a ski market, I hadn't picked Salt Lake City yet, but I'm not going to take that for granted either. And Orlando too. So I literally went to ChatGPT and said, hey, if you had to pick one beach in the continuous 48 United States to go to, like east of the Mississippi, what would be the best beach? And ChatGPT comes back, well, here for these following reasons, the 30A area would be the best beach because of the white sandy beaches, the beauty of it, all that. So I'm like, I knew it, but I needed to confirm it. I did the same thing with Salt Lake City because I said, but I gave it more parameters. I said, if A is the best beach, then for those cities, those metros that don't have easy access to skiing currently, and they're southeast, midwest, east, and all that stuff, and there isn't really good skiing, not northeast because you got Vermont and all that. What would you suggest if they had to take a flight to go ski? What would be the most efficient way to get to the best skiing possible? And it was Salt Lake City area. So I'm like, bam, those are my two foundational markets I want to build a co-hosting company in. And I said, what's the best entertainment capital of the world for families? And they said Orlando.
Right.
Yep. I did additional research. I said, like, what's the best adult playground to go to if you're like a golf enthusiast? And you and I remember talking about this. It said, there's 90 golf courses within a half hour of Myrtle Beach, blah blah blah. Like okay, those types of markets appeal to me. There's a again, it goes back to your and my strength. There's a marketing angle that I can build on there, and that's what I gravitated to. So that's the story.
Yeah. So
and then go ahead and pick up at the point now where it's like I tell you this, and now your experience takes over and starts talking me through.
Right. So there's a couple things that I liked about what your vision was. I was already in the mindset that I wanted to be in a beach market, and I wanted to be in a new quote unquote mountain market. Poconos is a mountain market-ish.
Right.
So, that already aligned with what I wanted to do going forward. But the other thing that really I connected with was you wanted these two divisions of the company, right? You wanted a managed branch, right, where we're co-hosting, and then ultimately an owned branch, right? And potentially that owned branch being new builds, right, build to STR, so that there's a common element across the portfolio. And that was something that I learned kind of the hard way with the business that I had built in the Poconos was I had guest stay at, some of the quote unquote nicer properties that I had. And then through marketing, they rebooked through our direct booking site on one of our not so nice properties. And then they kind of felt let down. So I had already kind of learned that like there needs to be consistency across all the properties. So that really struck with me and was something that really pushed me over the line there to say, yeah, this is kind of a partnership. We're thinking the same way. It's time to really get this moving.
It's so funny that you say that, because that was actually the first reason I started thinking and dreaming about Ultvare. But through your experience, your realistic approach, and our discussion about how do we get to that point, I've actually sort of set that on the back burner, because you and I have both decided we want the capital and the revenue that we generate through our co-hosting business to drive the purchase of those new builds. So it's funny, you mentioned it. It's like how you started, but currently, clearly, we've made a strategic decision to let that be second.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? We want to build up that cash flow through the co-hosting branch to then take that and deploy it into real estate that we own. So I think it's a good model, and I think everything goes successfully, it's going to work out really well. So after we had this initial conversation in November, we decided to move forward. We took our trip down to 30A. Our plan to take our trip down to 30A, which then said, okay, well, what do we need to do while we're down in 30A? We ended up putting together a Google sheet that had a list of all realtors in the area that pretty much did short-term rental properties, luxury short-term rental properties. And then we also put together everybody that we might need for operations. So that's cleaning companies, handymen, painters, electricians, plumbers, HVAC contractors, landscapers, pool and hot tub service companies, people that can serve as internal inspectors, because that's going to be a huge part of a business. Exterminators, laundry services, trash vendors, appliance repair, really anything that you might possibly need for operations. We started putting the list of companies down this Google sheet. And then we also did for guest experience. So concierge companies, beach setup companies, fishing excursions, boat rentals, private chefs, in-home massage companies, dog walking services, all the restaurants, breweries, everything you can think of. And then you and I hit the phones. Right. And you kind of took the lead on the realtors and started building some relationships there, which have become super valuable. And I know you're going to, continue to develop those relationships. And then I started calling, the cleaners, contractors, handymen, painters, electricians, because the goal was, let's maximize this trip that we're going to take down to 30A, which was in December of 2024, and have as many meetings as possible. So we ended up going down in December. We had a pretty good meeting with Joe Rohn, Savvy Realty and Rohn Casa Hospitality. He's also co-host down in the area. He kind of gave us the lay of the land, right? We kind of talked through our plan, felt like we got some pretty good feedback from him, and I think that was helpful. And then essentially we just had a bunch of meetings set up. So maybe you want to talk a little bit through conversations that you've had with realtors, right? Because I think our perspective on the market shifted a little bit with some of the feedback that you had gotten. Yeah. And later on, you had more in-person meetings, but I think you got some pretty valuable feedback at that point, or was in process of getting valuable feedback from these realtors.
Yeah, it's interesting. We thought we knew what they would say, and they told us different stuff. I think what we learned, has been so valuable when you talk to people in the market who are to talk the language, were things like, phrases like cost to own. We had no idea what that was. Cost to own, like it's a different beast down there when you have people with the kind of money that people have down there to buy these oceanfront properties, these really luxury homes down there, that it's not likely that even if they have a rental manager manage their property, that they will actually get a positive return. They're just trying to mitigate as much of the pain of owning this dream house that they have as possible. That was one thing really that came out of that. The other thing that came out of it that I think a lot of co-hosts are learning, and that you will learn it whatever market you decide to go in, is the competition isn't all that stiff. We did not get a lot of reinforcement from the real estate agents and pros we talked to that we're going to have a tough time in this market. In fact, they said kind of the opposite. If you guys come down and you are going to be like you're telling us you're going to be, right, you should be able to get a foundational grasp of clients. And so, that's kind of the things that I think we learned. I think we learned more than what we thought. I remember you and I talking about how we thought we were going to go in guns blazing on maximizing revenue. But I think from what we've learned it might be more important to go in guns blazing. And I think this is what we're learning on. We're going to protect your property first.
Yeah.
Like, this is a massive property. That's the first thing. And if it's at the sacrifice of money, then so be it. You know, that kind of thing.
Obviously, people don't want to lose money, right? So we're still going to work to maximize as much as possible. And there's a good chance that no matter how well we do on some of the properties we might take on, that they may not cash flow. But the point that kept coming up, and I think this is a typical point in the short-term rental world, is a lot of owners show up to their properties and they're like, what is happening here, right? It's riddled with damage. There's devices, like appliances not working, just problems everywhere. So that's going to be the point that we really drive home with these potential clients, is that we're going to make sure that doesn't happen in their home, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be pristine, always pristine for guest check-in, but also for owner check-in. So yeah, I think those 2 points were pretty big for us while we were there. So we then shot some on-site videos down in Inlet Beach while we were there. I don't know if we've used those yet. I don't think. Do we initially?
I don't think we were thrilled about. We did use them. They did go out, but I don't think we were. As we talked about it and learned more, I don't think we were thrilled about the content.
Yeah. Right. We were learning.
Yeah, we were learning.
And then later in December, we set up a meeting with Jeff Hampton from STR Law Guys, because we said, okay, let's do this right. Let's create a real LLC. Let's get the co-hosting agreement in place that we know we can trust, and then talk through the future business structure of what we might look like when we do have owned properties in the mix. Yeah. So that was pretty valuable. I definitely recommend anybody that's looking to start a short-term rental business to reach out to STR Law Guys if you're looking to get LLC going, an agreement between you and a partner, and just co-hosting agreement for clients. And we also got our rental agreement through them too, so super helpful. So then in January we decided, all right, we've now been to the market, we're building relationships, we've started doing some advertising. It's time to start meeting on a regular basis, so we started weekly meetings. You then created the MarketMySTR account for Ultvare and created our website, which Bill hated.
Right.
So I know that's been, a couple of revisions in the making here, and I know you're updating it again for next week, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then in January, we really did start to publish our first Facebook ads.
Yep.
You launched the first paid ads campaign. I had never done videos before. I know you have done some for your businesses. I had really only sporadically posted on social media up until this point. So to say that I was uncomfortable doing this, and still am, is an understatement. But the more that we do this, I feel like the more comfortable I'm getting, and it'll just keep improving. And that's for really anybody who is considering being more active on social media for their business. It gets easier. So January, then we joined our accountability group. So Dan Colonhe, Michael Sade, and the two of us became a group of 4. Essentially within the inner circle, the co-host pod that's in it, there were accountability groups that were formed. I think we have a pretty awesome group here. We meet every Friday, and that helps push us along as well. So the next thing that happened in January was you took what you learned from the realtors and all the conversations you had, and you created this 30A luxury property investment analysis. Why don't you kind of talk us through what the thoughts were for that, and value for realtors and potential owners?
Yeah, it's funny, like, the only value that the January version had was it was something to talk about. As it turns out, it obviously, because you've watched it transform, it is transformed in what it delivers. The original version, I don't even remember what the original version was. It attempted, like I can be, a little bit too over the top. And that's not like, I'm not trying to be like, it's like that silly interview where, like, I try too hard. Like, it's not that. Like, I could be too wordy. I could be too, like, cluttery. Like,
I think it was more of a revenue projection.
It was more of a revenue thing only. Right. And so the benefit, and I don't want to skip ahead, but I went down for a trip and I took that with me, but I didn't share with anybody, but I told people about it and they said they wanted to see it. But during that trip, I had some even better conversations with real estate pros. I had coffee with several real estate pros, and I kept hearing this cost to own, cost to own, cost to own. So I came back, told you about that. And if you remember, we totally revamped it to be more of a, let's look at this thing from not only can we help the existing owner who's transitioning from maybe a less than ideal situation with a property manager to a new one, or even they're buying one, and how can we help a real estate agent make this an impactful thing that they use as a tool, and we're willing to do it for free. And it was this whole cost to own thing. So while it showed our ability to use our resources, AirDNA and B&B Calc and all these other things that we use to drive a message of here's what we think we might be able to do with regard to booking revenue on your property, it was if you put down 20%, if you put down 50%, or if you put down all cash, what does that experience look like in year one? What's it look like after that? And that's where we've started to get some real estate pros who be like, I can use this. And that to your point, is essentially why we did it in the first place, which is what can we do? What value can we add for a real estate agent where they look at us and are like, man, they're willing to help me first before they expect anything in return?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think at this point, it's probably gone through 3 pretty decent iterations. And it is interesting to see that, like, the feedback we got was there's a lot of buyers here that want to know how much they need to put down to, obviously you put 100% down, you're really reducing your yearly costs, but they wanted to be able to play with that amount to understand, okay, where might I fall each year in terms of cost to own.
Jeremy, talk about when you decided it was important to get your accountant on the phone and how dramatically that changed it.
So I have that on my sheet here. So that didn't happen until May.
Okay.
Because what ended up happening, we'll talk through it now, was, you hear a lot of people talk about big, beautiful bill, and that's not bill faith. That's what Trump just pushed through. Bonus depreciation. Right. Cost seg and bonus depreciation. And there's a lot of kind of mixed messages out there. And what we thought we knew we had incorporated into the sheet of saying, okay, what can an owner expect with bonus depreciation if it comes back 100%? And we decided, let's just be sure. We had done our online research. We've listened to a lot of people talk through, what they're saying is right with bonus depreciation. But what we did was we had a call with my accountant, Chris, and just kind of, he really gave us exactly.
He sobered us up.
Yeah, essentially what we were assuming was 100% wrong. So there really isn't much, what we learned is there really isn't much of an advantage to owners if they're not going to manage the property. There's a certain number of hours they have to hit above and beyond W-2, plus it has to be more income from the real estate focused item versus their W-2, plus a lot of other things. But that was the third iteration, because now we said, okay, we got to modify this again and make sure it's right.
And I know whoever's listening to this maybe has heard us, but I would like to reinforce it. Like, be very careful using cost seg as a selling tool for, people buying, or you have to be very careful. There are people all over the map on how they're being aggressive with encouraging buyers to use cost seg. Man, be careful.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, understand the rules about it to make sure you're doing it right. So just to finish up, in January, we're in a hospitality business, or getting into a hospitality business, because I guess technically we just have a hobby until we have a client. But I had recommended you read Unreasonable Hospitality, a really great book. I think anybody who's in the service or hospitality industry should read it. We took some points from it that's really going to hopefully help us in time elevate our guest experience. We're going to take it step by step and be slow with it, but highly recommend people read that book. So then we had February through March. So now our marketing has kind of slowly started. We've been building up these relationships. So now we really feel like, or at least I really felt like, okay, we're out in the market now. There's potential for leads to start coming in. There's potential for us to get a client. So we really need to start creating our operational foundation for Ultvare. I had mentioned it in the previous show, but essentially we currently use a Google Drive, which is our playbook. So each playbook, and we have 3, one for operations, one for marketing, and the last one is for guest experience. Each one has SOPs, reference documents, templates, and system documents, and they're all in these Google Sheets, itemized and then linked into folders, so it's easy for us to access from anywhere. And then you brought on Kimmy in this period of time to be our VA project manager, and it was at this point that we continued to push operations. So I ended up onboarding some tech stack items that we thought maybe we'd use for Ultvare, but because I still have properties in the Poconos, I was able to bring it on, start testing. So I brought on Breezeway. Right now we're using that for repairs and maintenance tracking. We started using Monday for reservation management. And then Welcome Screen is another thing that we started using, which is essentially giving a custom welcome screen to our guests every time they enter the home for the first time. And then we started to onboard Jervis, which is going to allow us to do the automated door locks plus manage our HVAC, heating and cooling, plus some other things automatically.
Maybe we can tease an episode here. In a couple episodes, you'll go through and sort of give a review of each of those things. You've been able to use it for a couple months. You've got a bunch of things you've introduced to me and to us and to our business. Maybe it would be a great thing to be like, hey, here's a candid review of all this stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, right now we're using Monday. Just another thing about being in the community that we're in, right? We get exposure to a lot of things. And there was just a demo from some people who have a pretty successful co-hosting business where they use Notion as basically their hub for all their information. So whether or not, Google Drive stays what we use, it is it for now. And maybe we'll pivot at some point if we find something better, but it works pretty well for us at the moment. So I brought on these tech stack things, and now, we were like, okay, we've got some content out there. We're starting to build these relationships again. Now we really need to target our clients a little bit better. So then this is where we created the SOPs for Kimmy, and you brought on Chiri to help with this. But essentially, we gave what our buy box is, quote unquote buy box, in terms of potential client properties. And then we located those properties and then found their names, addresses, so we could start doing, specific Facebook ads to them. And originally, the goal was, let's just do 30A, right? We're going to market to all of 30A. Right. Our short form videos that go out will say 30A, and that'll link to a long form video. And then the insight that we got from Bill was we needed to niche down and go town by town. So now what we started to do is create our short form videos and note the town instead of 30A. So trying to really speak to specific owners within each town. And then because we're out there, we're trying to get operations set and get ready to go. I connected with my insurance broker, Aaron Lux, just to tee up our co-hosting insurance policy. At this point, it's end of March, and we just want to be ready that if a client did come our way, we were ready. So that leads us to April. We ended up going to Bill's Inner Circle event in Nashville. This is where you took your second trip down to 30A with your family. You connected with the realtor some more. You connected with a potential concierge company. She might also do inspections for us. And you met with a pool and hot tub company. And hopefully both of those will become people that we can lean on. And then this is where, Bill really gave us the advice of niche down into the markets. So that's what we did, right? You had the VAs kind of break down our entire audience segment by town, and then you uploaded that into Facebook. And pretty much now our goal is to start targeting each individual town. In April, I ended up signing up for Jake Cohen's first small group revenue management coaching program. Jake has step-by-step B&B. So he's one of the well-known revenue managers in the industry. I wanted to level up my game a little bit in revenue management so that we know that we are going to 100% excel when we bring on these luxury properties. Prep the Ultvare client-facing documents because, again, we have somebody who's ready to go. We need the co-host contract teed up and ready to go. That's now set up in MarketMySTR so it can automatically get sent on our initial call. And then also creating things like our KPI report that we're going to issue every month to our clients, right? Well, how's the performance of the house going month over month? And then, any of the other items that we want to include, like what were the repairs and maintenance items over the month. And then the other thing that occurred in April, I had Kimmy take John Bianchi's online course. He's the Airbnb data guy on Instagram. He essentially put together this course which helps to really understand how to create comp sets. Kimmy is going to help me create our Ultvare property income reports. Every time we have a potential client, we're going to give them this report that says, here's what we project your property can make based on comps in the market. And we typically try and get about 10 comps. And then there's a range of revenue. We tell them what our goal is for their property. So she was able to complete that course. I think that's going to help a ton as we start to get clients rolling in or potential clients rolling in to be able to turn those reports around quicker. And then the other thing I realized in April was Kimmy's not really super familiar with the industry. So I created a guest journey document for her, and that'll be for anybody that we bring on going forward, where it really outlines the guest journey, from inquiry or request to book through their stay and through checkout, and then into beginning to retarget to these guests for marketing. So she understands what are all the tasks that need to happen at what time throughout this guest journey. Then in May, there's another Inner Circle event. We went to the co-hosting retreat in Smith Lake, And this is where we really honestly said, okay, now we're launched. We're incorporating all the stuff that Bill was talking about into our plan here, and we're fully moving forward. So this is where you and Bill we're going to create these co-host funnels, and I think you're going to show some of those this coming week at STR WealthCon. You signed the LLC in May, so that means we really were official. And then we started the 100-day person of interest plan that Bill explained to us during this retreat. I created some operational SOPs for Kimmy for the Poconos properties. So essentially every time we get a booking within Monday.com, we get automated recurring tasks so that she can then go through and click off each one of the tasks that need to be done for each one of the guests, accountant to understand bonus depreciation. So now we're almost caught up. We're in June. We decided to split the 100-day plan. You do 1 week with a video, I do 1 week with a video, and that was how we were going to kind of conquer that. And I know you issued one of my videos or posted one of my videos this week. Next week with STR WealthCon might be a week off, and then we're going to pick it back up the following week.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had the family reunion tour this summer, and my third and final one is this Saturday in Missouri. So I had Denver, Missouri, and the Poconos. And then I've got the STR Wealth Conference. So life happens for everybody. We know that, and I think what people could conclude here that is we've taken a long time and we still haven't gotten a client. And I don't think either of us thinks that's true, other than to say we've been building. Bill might argue we're getting ready to get ready. I would disagree. I think you would disagree too. But I think at this point it is now about marketing. The foundation's there just to simply market. And like you said, deliver content.
Yep, absolutely. And just a side note, because you were in Poconos, it was great. We were able to get together out there versus, you being in Nashville and me being in Connecticut and doing this over Zoom. So just to continue, in June, this is when you came up with the Market My STR show. You did the first episode, and then we did the second episode together. And then, like you said, this was just, now it's time to start doing content. I filmed 2 more long-form videos that are ready to go out. And then thinking operationally again, I ended up signing up for, and I'm still working on it, Justin Ford's Florida Safety online course that he offers through Breezeway. Florida has specific class outside of the general safety class, so I figured it would be a good idea to kind of brush up on safety requirements for the market that we're headed into. I did 5 more short form videos, 2 long form videos. We got the bank accounts open. I finished Jake's class, and then we started an outline for podcast going forward. And the goal is going to be 1 a week. We'll see if we do one next week while we're together. You're going to be on stage throughout STR WealthCon, so you're going to be a little bit busier than I am, but we'll see if we can squeak something in. And then one of the aspects of our website, if somebody is coming for an intro call, is we ask them to watch our objection video so that we can get to the meat of the conversation, which is really, what are their goals, talk about their property, and are we a good fit for each other? So I created that first version of this objection video, filmed it, edited it, and then you watched it, gave some feedback, and also remembered that Bill and Patrick did a video specifically on this. So I just redid that, and 2 nights ago filmed and edited it. So hopefully that is a little bit more ready to go to be posted to the website.
Yeah, do you have the script for that?
I do.
Okay, if you could share that with me, because that's going to show up at the bottom of that video on that objection page where someone's scheduled, where Bill has said, write it out too and put it in there. So if you give me the script, I can more quickly put that in there.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'll send that over to you.
Okay.
And then again, just thinking business wide and operationally, I decided to read What the Heck is EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's by Gino Wickman. I had read Traction, which is another one of his books before. What the Heck is EOS is the employee side of Traction, where it's explaining what Traction is to employees. So I kind of wanted to understand that perspective. And now I'm rereading Traction, and the goal is to implement some of the things that he talks about in the book into our business. And then that really leads us up to where we are now. And next week, or in a couple of days, I'm headed to Nashville. We'll be hanging out for a few days for STR WealthCon. You want to just kind of quickly talk through what you're going to be doing there?
Yeah, I'm going to be on a 4-hour track training with Bill, Faith, and Patrick Switek for co-hosting. I think that's on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, or Thursday. Either one. I'm doing a half-hour presentation in front of the VIP group for Bill's for all the inner circle, all of their masterminds, anybody else who's a VIP on Tuesday. And then I'm facilitating a Bible study 3 mornings in the conference, which I feel really blessed to be able to do. And then I think it's a great idea. I hope you and I can, at the conference, even at our booth, record the 4th episode of this and just talk through. And even, you mentioned earlier we're an accountability group, and you and I both know a lot more about what we do in our accountability group. But one of the things we're going to do is probably get together for a drink or two. And even if I set a tripod up and we start recording and the 4 of us talk through what we're getting out of the conference that might be helpful to people, that could be an episode too. So you and I know, are looking forward to finding an opportunity to do a 4th episode specific to this is what we've learned from STR Wealth Conference. It can't be an ad, or it can't be an enticement to go the next year, because this is the last one. So this is what it is, right? So
I think that's a great idea. I know we've been planning to get both Dan and Michael on this podcast, so I think that's the way we should do it.
So we're at 39 minutes. I feel like 39 minutes is enough for people. If you've listened to this whole thing, very much appreciated. What Jeremy alluded to, I think, before, and what we are going to do with many of our podcasts, and what the MarketMySTR podcast will be about, is because we serve co-hosts, we are making this a roadmap, and we are acting as a guinea pig for all of you. So what we do, Jeremy and I are big believers in abundance. We are going to pass this stuff along to you. So what the rest of these episodes will likely look like is when Jeremy and I say, here's what we did, here's what we're doing, and here's what we plan to do next week, that will roll up into a training. It may be a PDF, it may be a template, it may be something inside of MarketMySTR that you can apply, like a funnel or a lead magnet type thing, or even, like, for example, one of our trainings, we'll talk about next time we get together. And what did we do? Well, Jeremy and I need more likes on our Facebook page. So we started a Facebook like campaign, and we're getting at 50 cents a click, 50 cents a piece, we're getting likes to our Ultvare page just to prop that up. So we've got people who are following us in our market and out of our market who might be guests in the future. But those types of things matter. They matter for online first impression. They matter for momentum. All those things matter. We look forward to you guys sticking with us. We look forward to the next episode, and best to all of you in your co-hosting journey. And if you're not a co-host, the truth is much of what we do and apply will always fall really to the number one priority of how do we get a client and their property fully booked. And those things apply to anybody who hosts a property, whether you're 1, 2, 10, 100, co-host, or just self-managed.